Good evening, everybody. Welcome again to another Mindful Elevation live interview. And thank you for spending your time with us. Tonight, we're going to have another interesting topic, which is going to be setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries. Do you know how to set your boundaries and how to make sure you don't go out of it, or other people trying to make you break your boundaries? Tonight, the guest that we're going to have is Miss Amy Arundel. She is a PhD organizational leadership student. So with her, we're going to talk about this topic, and we're going to get a little bit more knowledge about it from her. Welcome, Miss Amy.
Thank you, Ms. Ramonda. Thank you for inviting me here. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start with setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries. We're going to start with what are boundaries? Um, I know that a lot of us know what a boundary is. You can have boundaries when you're plotting out land and, it's a different stakes. And, okay, this is my plot, this is the neighbor's plot, and this is the other one plot. Um, for me, what I have clarified or, put boundaries as a parameter protect something or mark, the dictionary. But my definition is a set of behaviors that I have put in place to guide you in how to treat me. So it basically boiled down to me telling you what I would like or what I expect of you going forward in our relationship, whether it's a professional relationship, whether it's a friendship or a situationship, whatever it is. But these are the guidelines that we are going to utilize going forward.
And then Miss Amy,
Then,
before we continue, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Give us a little bit more information before we go and dive into this interesting topic.
okay, um, let's see, how far back should we go? 20 years? All right. I'm a product of the MPC. I went to Holland to study. I studied social work. And then I started working at the St. Martin Academy section for a year. Then I was transferred to the then, we call it BV, and later it took on the PSV name. And 2 years ago, I moved back down to the academic section. During those times, of course, I was never one person to work one job. So I have worked numerous jobs, from facilitator to instructor, doing social media. I also work now as the counselor for the University of St. Martin. A couple of years ago, I obtained my master's in counseling and a master's in education. And so that is what I've been doing. And then recently I decided that that is not really my passion anymore. So, in order to be true to oneself, you should always listen to your heart. And so leadership has been, calling me, not specifically education leadership, but, leadership in business. So I decided to do my PhD in business and in organizational leadership.
Nice. And that means you can be one of the examples of boundaries as well. So can we start with that? And then you can go ahead.
Yes. So why are boundaries so important? Boundaries are important because to protect your mental health. And even though, we may not be in the counseling area or social work, or, your mental health is important no matter who you are. And in order to protect your mental health and your well-being, you need to have boundaries in place. And because you value your well-being, your energy, and your growth setting, enforcing and maintaining boundaries are also vital. Okay. And we may think that, it's not something that is important, but as you go along, you will see how important setting, maintaining, and enforcing boundaries really is. And I have these are my 4 personal types of boundaries. So these are not the boundaries that you may have conventionally, but I believe that these are the 4 major types that one should have in their life. Your personal, professional, friendship, and relationship. And what does that look like? Personal boundaries. I'll give you a little story on this. I know a friend of mine's, his significant other does not appreciate for people to call the house or to engage the family time, her time, his time, or anyone time in that house after 7. They believe that that is their time to bond as a family, have their dinner, put the children to bed, and that is the time when they reconnect as parents, as adults. And I decided that that was such a that had a profound impact on me, because when people can access you at all times, when do you have time for yourself? We talk about, oh, your well-being is important, but how can you spend time with yourself in order for you to have a good well-being if you don't have a boundary? If everyone can just come at you at any time, no matter, and then you're always giving of yourself. So when you give for yourself, you don't have anything left over. So therefore, you should always have a set of personal boundaries in place. We talk about disconnecting. That too is a personal boundary. When do you disconnect from your devices? When do you disconnect from the outside world? So personal boundaries, it looks differently to everyone, and I can't tell you what you should do for your personal boundaries, but bear in mind, your personal boundaries should be able to help you to help spend time with yourself and doing what you would like to do. How that look like, that is something you will have to decide, personally. Then we have professional boundaries. This is extremely important, especially now, where, we have some persons that are operating from home, they're working from home. Some persons are going into an office. When do you start to work and when do you finish working if you're at home? Do you work from 8 to 8 or from 8 to 12 midnight? Sometimes you have persons that are saying, I work more at home than I actually work in my place of business. Mm-hmm. And that is because they have not set professional boundaries. Setting professional boundaries is, what is your working time? Let's say you start to work at 8. Do you finish at 3? And if somebody contacts you at 4, do you answer your phone? Do you do what that person expects you to do at 4 o'clock? Now you're supposed to enforce, how do you enforce now this boundary and say, you know what? I'm no longer working. If you don't feel comfortable in voicing it or verbalizing it, you can just choose not to answer the phone. You can choose not to answer the email. So if you say, okay, I'm working from 8 o'clock until 3, after 3, you close down your work email and you step away. Like they say, put it down and back away. You put it down, log out, and you back away. And if you are contacted by phone and you're asked, why didn't you answer my call? Or why didn't you respond to the email? You can simply say, you're calling me outside of my working hours, and that is my personal time. In order for me to protect my mental health, I need to rejuvenate. And in order for me to give you the best version of myself, I need this time to take care of me. Therefore, now you're answering the person very respectfully. They now understand why you have that particular boundary in place. And they know going forward, you know what, let me check the time first before I call Ramonda, because I know Ramonda checks out at 3 o'clock, and after 3, that's her personal time. But when we don't have that boundary in place, nobody is going to look at the phone to see what time it is. They're just going to, oh, I need Ramonda, I'm going to pick up the phone and call Ramonda. It could be 3 o'clock, it could be 4 o'clock, it could be 8 or 9 o'clock at night. But because Ramona has no boundaries, and persons know that you will answer your phone and you will assist them, they will make use of your time.
Mhm.
And therefore, you will not have any time for yourself.
Correct.
Then we have boundaries within a friendship. Um, I will say something that I've been, I try to not coach people anymore or counsel people anymore outside of school because, like I said, I'm trying to not have that to do anymore outside of, my two jobs. And something that was brought up was, this person thought it was okay to start a relationship with their ex-girlfriend's friend. Now, I know with men, there's they call it the men code or the guy code, And I do think within friendship, there should be a friendship code. If you and I are together, you know, whoever the person has as friends or whoever I have as friends should be off limits going forward. So, going forward, you should maintain that boundary. Okay, we're finished. Even if you may have liked Ramonda, but you know what? Amy and Ramonda as friends, we are not going to be girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, whatever. So that is a boundary within a friendship. And like I said, boundaries mean different things to different people. But it is something that needs to be in place to protect your well-being and your mental health, and even in this case, your friendship going forward. And boundaries within a relationship. You're always hearing people say, but you didn't tell me that before. Well, we tend to, how must I say it? We tend to discuss it when things happen instead of when we're in the phase of getting to know someone, discussing what it is that we like and it is that we don't like, you know, and what we dislike. That is where your boundary lie. But only when it happens, then, we have this big argument, and then it's like, well, why you didn't tell me that before? Like, for instance, for me, you could come home anytime you would like to come home, as long as you reach. But for somebody else, it might be, okay, you need to be home by 1. And then, you don't verbalize that boundary. And then the person saunter in at 3 o'clock in the morning and you would like to have an argument. I'm not saying you're right and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying that that boundary was not discussed prior to the 3 o'clock. So that is why boundaries within a relationship is important and is necessary. Like I say, to protect your well-being and your mental health, because you're probably home, trying to go to sleep, but I wonder where my significant other is. I wonder if my significant other is safe and so forth. So to protect your mental health and for you to have a good night rest, make sure you have your boundaries within your relationship before the start of the relationship. You know, um, I know I've spoken a lot. I didn't go in depth because I know I wanted to answer some questions because, I know the format of your show. So I'm now open for questions and I can assist people in how to enforce, set, and maintain their boundaries in those 4 areas or any other areas they would wish going forward.
Thank you very much. That was really interesting. And indeed, listeners, if you have a question, you can always post it in the chat or you can always ask it as well. So in the meantime that you might be thinking about a question, when it's coming to boundaries, can you give, let's say, a personal boundary example?
Okay, a personal boundary for me is personally, I if I say yes, I mean yes, and if I say no, don't push me.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, like I tell people, I would rather mop all the water in the sea and sweep all the sand on the beach rather than going out to eat right now during this COVID pandemic. And yet you still have persons that would say, hey, let's go for lunch or let's go for this. And it's kind of like, no, I would rather move to the beach and start to mop the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, and that's my personal boundary. I prefer to be safe than not.
Yeah.
Another personal boundary would be that I've started enforcing is on Sundays, I no longer do anything that is not something that is going to benefit me mentally, physically, or emotionally. So
Mm-hmm.
Sundays are my day to replenish.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm no longer, entertaining any activities or those things. That is, my family time, and
Mm-hmm.
that is something that is, valuable to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then because you mention it as well that we don't really set boundaries, or at least we do not indicate to the other person or to the in the work environment that these are my boundaries. How can you go about to, because maybe in our head we can have a particular boundary, like you said, on Sunday is your personal mental health day, so it's for you, for your
Mm-hmm.
family, nobody else. But then it might be easier to say yes, you have to communicate it to the outside world, but how can you go about that to really indicate it, especially because we're not really accustomed of doing that? So then
All
the
right.
first time people might be thinking, yeah, right, mm-hmm, of course, and then still break it.
Um, I do agree with you. And what I've done recently is I just don't answer my phone. I can remember someone from work was trying to get in contact with me on a Sunday, and on Mondays when I saw the amount of messages and so forth, and I didn't pick up. And when the person asked, "But why didn't you answer the phone?" I said, "Well, I was busy cooking up a storm. Would you like to see the pictures?" you know, and so that person now know, and everyone else know. Okay, Sundays don't contact her, and it's not something that you have to tell people um or broadcast. When they contact you on a Sunday, Monday morning when you're answering a message, you say, "Hey, on Sundays is my day, and I no longer answer emails, WhatsApp, phone calls, or whatever on Sundays. So
Yeah.
I would appreciate it if you contact me from Monday through Saturday, as
Mhm.
Sundays is my day to rejuvenate myself,
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm.
my mental health day, if you would like to say it, or
Yeah.
however you would like to phrase it." But
Correct.
I don't think that I should put, or you should put, the pressure on yourself to say, "Hey, you know what? This is my time," because then you feel pressured to now go and tell somebody that you're taking time, that you're actually taking your time to be with you. Are we understanding what we're saying? I'm now telling somebody, "Do not contact me because I'm taking my time to be with me." No, if you would like to tell the world, go right ahead. But for me, I wouldn't give you that pressure to do that. Just when
Yeah.
you're answering them back a day later, or whenever you choose to, somebody might say, "You know what, Saturdays and Sundays are for me."
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
when I leave the job on Friday, Saturdays and Sundays are for me. I'm going to answer you back on Monday. And when you answer on Monday, how are you doing? This and this is what's going on. I no longer, and you're being very courteous, and you explain to them why you didn't answer, the WhatsApp
Yeah.
or the message or the phone call or whatever.
Correct. Correct. And then how somebody can handle with the guilt then, because I can imagine that you're trying to convey that to the outside world, but then at the same time you're feeling guilty that you're taking me time.
Then I would ask yourself, have you ever seen a bunk bed coffin? I'm very blunt. When you're ready to go, nobody goes with you. Everybody loves you, but they love you to the line. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't love yourself enough to have boundaries and enforce your boundaries and to maintain your boundaries, you're going to go faster than a rocket, because you're going to deplete yourself. It's just like, for instance, you have a bottle of water. You
Mm-hmm.
keep pouring from that water, bottled water, and you give everybody around you water. At a given moment, that bottle will be empty.
Yeah.
How do
Correct.
you replenish that bottled water if you're constantly pouring from that bottled water?
Yeah. That is true. That is
So I
true.
think the answer to your question is, once you start to love yourself and you understand what life is, that you were born and therefore you will die, and you don't know where you are on the line of, you know, your life, you will understand that every moment that you have here is important, to you, nobody else but
Correct.
yourself.
Correct.
Because
That is
when, it's all said and done, it's you and you alone. So you should
exactly.
not feel guilty for enjoying your time. So, understand that it's your time, nobody else's time, your
Correct.
time.
Correct.
So don't
Uh,
feel guilty for enjoying your time.
that's true. Kenty is saying one of the hardest challenges is the professional boundaries. And Sharitza, setting boundaries within a relationship may also include a division of responsibilities within the household. That is,
Yes. So we're going to go back to Candy's question with professional boundaries.
mhm.
I always tell people have a work email and a personal email. So when you're ready to take your personal time, you close off your work email. In your personal time, if you feel like going into your personal email because it's your time now, you can do that without looking or being mindful of, work related emails coming in. Your
Mhm.
phone, get a different number because, sometimes the old school ones, we only have one number, but get a different number and, okay, you say, hey, for this is going to be private and this is going to be professional. In terms of whenever work is done, I take off my professional phone and I only have on my private phone in case, your family would like to contact you or whatever,
Yeah.
and so forth. And you step away. And, even the next day when you show up to work and your boss or your supervisor, whoever, and they say, hey, I was trying to contact you. And you said, you know what, in order for me to be my best self and in order for me to give you the best version of me professionally, I needed time to replenish. And I
Mhm.
don't think there is no supervisor, no manager is going to come at you for trying to be the better version of that person in order for their company to grow. So
Yeah.
and it's something that you have to enforce. You can't do it today, Monday, and then answer the phone calls at 4 o'clock on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then try to enforce it on Thursday. Because then you're wishy-washy, and then they're going to just decide, you know what, I can move that boundary. I know that for certain things, I can call her at when she decides that she's not answering her phone. No, 4 o'clock is 4 o'clock. Done. Take off phone. You can't answer me unless you send a pigeon through the window to get me.
That's true. Somebody had their hand up. Lancy, you still wanted to ask your question?
Okay, yes, I'll go ahead. Amy, I noticed that you're doing your PhD in leadership, and I think
Yes.
you would agree with me that the the more responsibility you have as a leader, let's say, the more demands that are placed on your time, your boundaries, and so on. So, what would be some practical tips you would give somebody in a leadership position where they have lots of responsibility and lots of people are pulling at their time and their resources? What are some tips would you give somebody like that for setting and maintaining professional boundaries?
All right. Number one would be start to condition the people that you are in charge of. Condition them that there is a start and there's an end. There's a starting time and there's an ending time to your work. And one thing I've learned, I must say, I love to give credit where it's due. Last year, when I started to work at the university, in speaking to the dean of the university, Dr. Relinda Carter, her thing was, if you're going to come to me with an issue, come with a possible solution. And I love that because when we start to condition, I don't say train because like my son would say training is for animal, conditioning is for humans. We need to start to condition people that yes, you may be the manager, but you're not there to solve all of their problems because that is making, they're now looking to you as the high problem solver. So everything that is happening to them, they're now going to think, hey, let me see if I can solve this myself before I go to Lancer. So you need to condition them. You have everything within you in order to solve this issue. And it's something that you have to consistently, and constantly be doing. So you have to be consistent and you have to be constantly doing it. And don't allow it to not happen one time. It's just like, when um, you're conditioning children to do things, or, enforcing behavior change. You have to do it consistently and constantly. So when you're over people, be consistent with them, enforce your boundaries. These are your working hours. If you're going to come to me, come with a possible solution. And if you have that as one of your boundaries, while they're thinking of the solution, they'll be like, oh, but I don't need Miss Celestine again because I just figured it out. And I believe that a lot of people have the answers to their questions within themselves, but because they know when they come to someone, it will always be solvable. So we need, as a leader, and I think we need to start giving people that authority, that they know what they need to do. They just probably are unsure of themselves.
Yeah. Kenty was just saying that the thing with boundaries is that they become harder as everyone's accessibility is constant. That's true, because now that we're working online, sometimes as well it's difficult to make the distinction of, okay, this is my working time and this is my personal time.
And to answer that, a friend of mine's yesterday decided that she needs some time away, and she messaged me. She's like, don't worry, I'm good for the next 3 days. I won't have any internet. I won't have my telephone. I'm not answering emails. And that's what sometimes you just need to unplug. And I know people are very persistent, especially when you're living on an island. So you may not answer your phone, you may not answer your email, but they'll find you on IG, Instagram messaging. They'll find you on Facebook messaging. And I have reached to the point where I even, I took it off my phone. So it's no longer installed on my phone, so because like Kenty said, people just believe then, not that they need you, but they believe that they need you. And so they always would try to get a hold of you. And that is where you need to maintain your boundary. Don't answer.
Yeah.
I even know of, some person, if you ask them work related things on Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, they're not going to answer you because this is not work related. My Instagram and my Facebook is my personal page. So I am not going to answer work-related material or work-related questions on those sites. And by doing that, you're conditioning them. I'm not going to get Kenty on Instagram or Facebook Messenger. I need to contact her during these times. And it's something that you have to, like I told my answer, you have to continue reinforcing it.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about it. Do not
That,
feel bad about it. It's
yeah,
your time.
correct. That's the important thing what you said. Don't feel bad about it. Like Bakari saying, tell the supervisor what, and you're getting an instant warning letter, because indeed, you as the worker, how you going to tell your boss, these are your boundaries and don't contact me after a particular hour? I imagine that for a lot of people, it's not easy.
Yeah, but there's a saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you can put that with the finest honey, and you can explain to your manager, because I am taking care of my mental health in order to give you the best of me. I need my time to rejuvenate. And it's just, you can use all the nice and eloquent words, and by the time you finish, your manager might even give you a vacation there too because of what you said. So it's not how you say it, it's what you say.
Yeah,
So it's how you phrase it. Phrase it very nicely, and always use your I messages, like I've been saying. My mental health, my time, how I feel. And you'll be surprised when you phrase it nicely. You might even get a day off.
that is so true. Like she was saying as well, that people does be messaging her on IG all the time, and she indeed also told them that her IGs are for other purposes than recruiting. Yeah.
Yes,
That is
yes, and she needs to constantly, and I know she might be getting upset, or sometimes you don't appreciate saying the same thing over and over, But in order for you to maintain boundaries, you have to be consistent. The moment you answer one message on IG or FB Messenger, the floodgates is going to open.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to do it and don't feel bad. I think Miss Lancer had her hands up.
Yes, correct. Mm-hmm.
Hi again. So I want to kind of ask this question by sharing an anecdote, well, a personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing my teaching certificate, I had this friend that we lived together as roommates. We were really like, I mean, it was the best lived in experience besides my family that I've ever had. Then we started to work together, and everything just actually in the first year of working together, we fell out. Like we just weren't friends after that. So I want to kind of ask that question of how do you set personal versus professional boundaries with people who are your friends? Because I think for me, I like to keep these things very compartmentalized, but sometimes it is not always so. People don't expect that boundary. They're expecting, oh, we're friends, so I can say certain things to you on the job, or I can do certain things on the job, because we should be cool about it. So, do you want to speak to us about that type of boundary?
Oh, that is beautiful. And the thing of it is, and that's a very good question, because some people need to realize that who I am at home is not necessarily who I am at work. And we need to have that conversation. So that was a conversation that needed to happen before we left the house and say, you know what? At home, I'm Amy to you. I'm your Lancer. At work, I'm Miss Amy. You're Miss Celestine. So we already putting that frame of mind to we're giving that frame of mind to the other person. Okay, professional mindset now. We're not going to be laughing and giggling and carrying on. Whatever conversation we have at home is going to remain at home. What we're doing at work is going to stay at work. What is happening at home is going to remain at home. You're not going to bring a conversation of what we discuss at home to work and vice versa. So those things need to be discussed. And, it's very unfortunate that some people don't have or don't know those boundaries. So those are things that, don't wait until it happened to bring it up. So if and I know people, there are certain people, even if I go to work, there are certain relationships that I don't entertain outside of work. And that is just my professional boundary. And like you said in a case, this person, you were living with them, and then after, you end up working, and they didn't know where the lines needed to end. So in a case like that, you explain to them, like I said before, this is home. I am Lancer at home, but I'm Miss Celestine at the job. And whatever we discuss at home, the behaviors, whatever, is going to stay at home, and we're going to be professional when we hit through the door.
Yeah.
And those are ways and then by doing that, the person is cognizant, okay, we're leaving home now. This is how I need to behave. This is how I need to talk. This is what I need to do. When you come home now, then they know, okay, this is home behavior.
Correct. That's true. Jessica, you wanted to ask your question?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Amy,
Good evening.
Congratulations on a very, very relevant topic, especially in the workplace. This boundary setting thing has always been an issue for me, especially in the culture of workplace within I work. I think that the leaders do not even understand what boundaries are. I sat in and I'm going to share a personal anecdote. I sat in a meeting with one of my leaders and explaining to them, what my boundaries are. And they're looking at me as like if I'm an alien who don't want to do her work. So I think those things like boundaries and things setting, it will be more understandable where when the leaders, those above you, and the culture of the company you're working in, they have also standards. If they don't have that, no matter how you try to explain about your boundaries and your profession, it's not going to work. It's not going to translate to them. Right now, we are in the culture of WhatsApp. Everybody in the this WhatsApp chat and that WhatsApp chat, and you have to be available to everybody. And as school counselors, social workers, there are certain things that fall between, a very thin line between what you have to know and what can be pushed to later. But I understand what you're saying, and I try to practice it. But I don't. I have a hard time letting my leaders know that, hey, this is it. Okay, after 3 o'clock, I ain't bothering with you. You understand? I find that I find you very disrespectful, especially in the culture that I am working with. And I know a lot of us on this platform can attest to that.
Yes. And I will just go so far to show you. I have over 999, can you see it? WhatsApp messages. And trust me, because my personal boundaries, I'm not answering none. And but like I said, I am, since this pandemic started, I have really enforced my personal boundaries. If I go into WhatsApp and you're not on the first 10, you don't get answer. Hence the 900, more than 1,000 actually WhatsApp messages. And do I feel guilty? I can sit here and tell you, no. Because like you said, the culture is everybody wants a piece of you when they want it. And that is not good for you mentally, physically, or emotionally. It leaves you feeling drained. You are not performing at your best. And you're always nervous because somebody's going to attack you literally any minute. You have to do something. You feel like you're an octopus with 8 legs. No. So, and I know that, people look at you like you go on sideways, or you probably lost half your bricks, but it's something that you need to constantly enforce. If you say, Jessica, that I work from 7:30 to 3, and after 3, don't contact me. After 3 o'clock, don't answer your phone. Don't answer your WhatsApp messages. Like I said, I have over 1,000. Do I feel guilty? Not at all. I know as a counselor, as social workers, as persons that take care of other people, we have been conditioned that we have to always be there for people. No, we are not oxygen. Always tell yourself that. You are not oxygen. So it's not that you have to be there. People want you to be there because they want you to be always accessible. No, do what you have to do when you have to do it. 7 to 3, you work, and you work hard. You make sure you contact your students. You do what you're there for. After 3, unless it's an emergency, and an emergency, you can determine what is an emergency. But only in emergency situations, you should be accessible. Else you're going to find yourself drained, not having the pep to do your job, and not feeling like you're operating at your best because you're constantly giving. And so now, because you have been constantly giving, Jessica, you now have to take back your power. And do not feel bad in taking back your power. It is your time.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can say, like I said, use your iMessages, and you explain to them. And if you have to explain to them 100 times every day, do so. At a given moment, it's going to click, and they're going to understand.
Thank you. I agree. But yeah, it's a long process, though. I think they learn to teach them how to
them how to treat you.
It takes longer by other people, especially as I told you, when you're working in a culture that nobody understands that. You understand? So, but thank you, though. It's a very relevant topic, and I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
No problem. And success. And make sure, continue enforcing your boundaries. Continue enforcing it and maintaining your boundaries.
Correct.
Okay, please, because, like I said, culturally, we were always, even from small, those who were, 30, 40 years ago, if somebody came to the house and you didn't want to kiss this person or hug this person, you always force, go and give so-and-so a kiss. Go, so we have always been conditioned. Even when we say no, we have to do things. And I'm here to say no, that, what was done to us was not correct. And you have a voice too, and you matter. So if you say no, it should be no. Maintain your boundary of no.
That's true.
And enforce it.
That is so true. Bakari is saying that, so Amy, are you saying that it's absolutely okay if I do not socialize with colleagues after 5 p.m.? And he putting the hashtag, please say yes.
Look, like I said, if it's something you don't want to do, don't do it. If you say, okay, probably once a month or once every 6 months to be cordial, or, there's a Christmas dinner, if for those of us that celebrates Christmas or Easter or whatever, and you would like to be in the company of them, feel free. But if it's something that you do not want to do, you should not have to be forced to do it. Why do we, like Jessica said, people have been conditioned that because somebody says something, we have to behave a certain way.
Correct. That is true. Judy, you wanted to ask a question?
Hi, good evening. Amy, great job. I am loving this, girl. I am loving this.
Thank you.
Not really a question, but just an example of a professional boundary that worked for me is that over the years, I've learned that my colleagues are my colleagues and they're not my friends, because I have enough friends outside of work. And that was something that I struggled with in the beginning. Actually returning home, that's something I had struggled with, and I'm learning over the years to divide those two, because sometimes colleagues get confused thinking that we're friends, and then when it's time to be professional, that's where difficulties arise, and then you're like, okay, time to be professional, this is not a joking matter. So for me, what work is that you're my colleague, and you're not my friend. So that is something I made known actually 2 years ago in my workspace. So I don't really socialize with colleagues outside of work, because I mean, it may sound bad, but that will work for me. I keep my colleagues as my colleagues, and if there's like a team building activity that I have to go to, okay, then I will make the exception. I'll go to it. But other than that, colleagues are my colleagues, and my friends are my friends. So that's one of the professional boundary that works for me. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Great job, Amy.
Thank you, Lovey. And that is a good point. And I do have that as well. Even though sometimes we're tasked, because as counselors, we're tasked as being head of the social committee and so forth. And you have to do team building activities, and, you contribute what you have to contribute to the event. And then that's it, like Judy said. And it's very good in doing that, because then the lines are not blurred. You don't have instances where something that was said in private is now at the job, and you're looking at the person sideways like, really though? That was said to you in confidence, but it's no longer in a confidential space. It's now at work. So that is a very good, like I said, a good boundary to have. And for Judy and I, Lancer, yourself, and those may have those boundaries, and Bakari, because I felt his question. But for some people, their colleagues are their friends, and for them, if that relationship is what you would like to have, then that is your relationship. We're not here to tell you that that is not a relationship that you should not have, or those are friendships that you should not have. We're just here to tell you that sometimes the lines get crossed and things get blurred and people get hurt, and and we try to keep our friendships and our workships separate.
Yeah.
But that may, like I said, with boundaries, it is personal to everyone. My boundaries that works for me cannot or may not work for Ramonda or Judy or Jessica or Bakari or Lanza. And Lanza's boundaries may not necessarily work with me, but she may have some that resonates with me that I may like and say, hey, I'm going to, use, or, with Kenty, I can use some of hers and so forth. But we're not here to say that it's a one size fit all. It has to do with your personality. It has to do with your peace of mind and what you value.
Correct. That is so true. Rolinda Carter is saying that regarding professional boundaries, I believe leaders often project their boundaries on their staff. For example, a boss who works on weekends and evening may try to reach out to their staff during those times and expect a response. Some may even be doing so unconsciously, so it is important that boundaries or expectations no and expectations are clearly discussed between leaders and staff, and that this is something I have recently become aware of. Yes, that is so true, because that's something that a lot of us are struggling with. Like I said before, your boss messaging you or calling you after working time, and then what you're doing now, you're picking up, you're answering, or you're leaving it till the next day.
Yeah. And like we discussed before, and like Dr. Carter said, sometimes you're working and it's kind of like, okay, I need Ramonda. And I pick up the phone and it's like, it's only when I don't get Ramonda, then is when I check the time and the date, then it's when it's conscious, okay, Ramonda is now on her personal time. I'll have to get this information tomorrow. So yes, it is something that, should be discussed beforehand. Like, when Jessica said, I was trying to discuss this with my school manager and so forth, and I was not being heard. So
Yeah.
yes.
Correct. Davian had a question. You still wanted to ask it?
Yes. So good night, good evening, everyone. My question, Amy, is
Good evening.
how do you bring that information to management? Because I mean, you're in a group chat on Sundays, you're getting emails, you're getting messages, you're getting information for the week, and you will get comments like, yeah, we know it's a weekend, but you have to do this, you have to do that. So how do you go now to your management to say, hey, it's Sunday, can I at least eat my ice cream in peace, please, without having to worry about work tomorrow morning?
Yeah. And so that is what we were discussing just now. With that, you have three choices, I would say. Choice number one, because we're professionals, we should be able to have professional conversations with our managers, our leaders, and so forth. And you explain to them why it is important for you to have that downtime. It's important for your mental health. It's important for you to be rejuvenated, for you to take care of yourself, for you to be sharp, focused, and ready for the week ahead. So that is why you need the me time. And so you can explain to them that, and if it still continues, I know you can silence the chats, because that's what I've been doing. You can put, silence the chat that you don't get the messages, or it comes in and it doesn't ping. And you just have to train yourself or condition yourself not to open those messages. And like I said before, do not feel guilty. Yeah. WhatsApp is very good. You don't have to open a message if you don't want to open a message. And you step away from it. You go eat your ice cream. You read a book. You do whatever it is that you need to do to replenish yourself. And then Monday morning at 7:30, you open your phone and you open that WhatsApp message and you check it. So first you give it to them. You explain to them verbally. In email, always put things in writing when it concerns yourself. Use your iMessages. Be respectful. Say why it's important for you and what they're going to get out of it when you are operating at your best. I think when managers know that persons are going to be operating at their best, they're going to allow them. I know that at my place of work at university, the dean is always saying, take your vacation if you need to replenish. Take the time off for you to focus on yourself, because that way you're going to be better. So, you're not a battery. And in order for you to be a well-oiled machine, you need to oil the parts of the machine. So you need to take care of yourself. So Davian, I would tell you first, verbalize it, send a letter, because it needs to be written in, professionally. And if the verbalizing and sending a letter doesn't work, put your phone, the WhatsApp, on mute. Or can't remember the stance that I think it's mute, or somebody can help me with that. I can't, I just ignore it. And then when you're ready, the Monday morning, you can go into that WhatsApp chat and you can read the messages that came in over the weekend that, you did not read. But like I said, if you're going to have boundaries and you're not going to be accessible on your weekend, make sure when you, on Monday morning, you do what is expected of you, because it's give and take. You don't want to be contacted, not a problem. But when it's time to work, you need to work, and you need to answer those emails, WhatsApps, whatever came in, answer them during the time that you are present or you're working for your job.
Yeah. So actually, because we often online and we have all these gadgets and apps, I think maybe in the contracts as well, when you're signing one with your work, I think those things have to be in it too, that after particular hour, you can contact you. If you don't want to answer, you are allowed. So I think even that have to be discussed before as well. So in between, you kind of like, you don't have these challenges as such.
And that's a good point you bring up, Ramonda. But, don't forget, these contracts are contracts that are 20, 30, 40 years old.
Correct.
They're just the usual contract that has been copied, and, you sign here, date here, that's it. It has not been updated with the time.
Yeah.
Now that we can literally say we are now in the digital age. So, like you said, with the apps and the amount of ways that people can contact a person, all of that needs to be stipulated, going forward.
Correct. That is so true. Gina is saying, keep your boundaries. I'm working on that. And then not answering emails and messages after 3 or on weekends. And then Kenty is saying, last week I realized I was part of 84 group chats. Okay. Well, I did a serious spring cleaning in August. Some of these people I do not speak to in months. Yeah, sometimes we really have to do that, clean our WhatsApp and Facebook and IG of those that we don't even know who they are.
Yes. And we have to also bear in mind, with maintaining boundaries, don't delete them today and then add them back tomorrow. That's it. Don't forget, we have now set the boundary, but we need to maintain it. So be cognizant of it. Do the spring cleaning and make sure it stays clean.
Correct. And then Kenty is also saying what you just said, I'm not oxygen. She's going to use that.
Please point it. Go right ahead. You're not oxygen, and people make you feel bad that you're not available to them. I've literally heard someone tell me, yeah, but you're the heartbeat, you're this, you're that, and you're looking at the person like, but so when is time for me though? When do I get to be with me? When do I replenish? And in the same sentence, the person is asked, you need to take care of your mental health. And you're kind of like, but how do you want me to take care of my mental health if I'm always on?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to disconnect and be okay with it. Don't beat yourself up. And like I said before, and please use it, you are not oxygen. As much as you want to believe that you're oxygen, you are not oxygen. Close off, step away, and take care of you. If something happens to you, the organization is going to go on. If you're working for government, you'll get a half-assed. I think for 3 days. After that, the flag will go back up. They'll put the ad in the paper for your position, and that will be it.
Correct.
So take care of you first. The rest will follow.
Exactly. Bakari, you wanted to say something?
Yes. I promised myself I would not be working this weekend. However, you touched upon something that is very close to my heart when it comes to workers' rights. And it's important to know that in the labor law, it stipulates that you are guaranteed between 10 and 11 hours rest during a weekday. So if you are called upon to work during your rest time, it means that it can be looked at as overtime. You understand? Even in weekends also. You see, so it's very important to familiarize oneself with that. And of course, what you're talking about with the mental health day, it is not unusual because it is widespread in Canada, for example, where teachers and nurses and so forth, they are granted mental health days. It's actually institutionalized. You see, the problem becomes when we have some persons in managerial positions who are only concerned with productivity, and they don't see the human being, they only see a battery. And it's as though, how dare you ask for a day off? You are here to work to get paid and so forth and so on. And ironically, it is these same persons who would want to send you to a course on customer service, on communication, and so forth and so on. You know, so I think a major and radical mind shift needs to happen. But I think as managers, as workers, we just need to be honest with ourselves sometimes and say, look, this is as far as it goes. And from here on, I am going to push back, come what may. You understand? Whether it's work or union related matters, Ramona knows quite well, and some of my people know quite well also. Friday, after Friday, weekends is mine. Unless there is blood, smoke, or violence, don't expect me to respond so easily, because it's like what you said correctly. If you do not recharge, if you do not feed your spirit, if you do not take time for you, for your loved ones and so forth, you know, it's so funny because you're going to see those around you crumble in terms of valuable relationships, and then you crumble afterward.
Yes.
Yeah, and then no one pays you a second. And the same people will say, well, why didn't Bakari take care of himself? You know, and next to that, and I'm going to finish, you're running out of time. What I find is so ironic is that in society today, there's a buzzword called resilience. Okay, and I believe that this term is being abused because there is such a thing. I was speaking with a psychologist at the time, and he told me that there's something that exists called being too resilient, where you now go to the other end, which can manifest into, you know, dysfunctional, you know, behaviors, for lack of a better word. I know psychologists or whatever have you, so if I use a wrong term, forgive me. You know?
It's okay, you're using the right one.
Thanks. So I'm saying, you know, with all of this in mind, you know, I would imagine that much more attention would be placed, especially in light of the mental health cases on St. Martin, especially among mental health cases among young persons on St. Martin. I would really imagine that this would have been to the forefront of different discussion, you know? But I'm going to wrap up, Carl. You know, I hate to talk. So thank you, Amy. I'm really enjoying the conversation, and thank you, Ramonda, for organizing a great discussion.
Yes,
You're welcome.
just to build on what Bakari was saying, why boundaries are important to protect your mental health. People don't understand there's a fine line between mental wellness and mental illness. There's a fine line. And people do not understand when you continue to move boundaries and, you know, you continue moving them, there's going to, you know, we have this phrase, the stick that broke the camel back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can go two ways. Either you become depressed and you internalize everything and you start telling yourself, you know, you're there for everyone else, nobody's there for you. You dig this pit for yourself because you have given everything of yourself and you do not know how to replenish yourself. You've reached rock bottom. And that is because you have not enforced your boundaries. You have not taken time to take care of yourself. And like Bacardi said, this word being resilient, continue being resilient and don't take care of yourself. You're going to see what's going to happen. And that's in my St. Martin voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell people not every phrase we need to coin. Because, you know, they always say, you know, the Black women we are very strong. We can put up with so much. We put up with a lot, but at what cost? Everything, we pay the price for everything. So in closing, I would always like to say, start teaching people how to treat you. And when doing that, be consistent with it, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
Create your boundary, enforce your boundary, but most of all, maintain your boundaries. And
Correct.
remember, you're not air. You need it, but you are not air. Thank you, Ramona, for having me. If there's any more questions, let me know.
Thank you, Amy. Well, actually, it's more comments, but if anybody has a question, you can always ask. Tina is saying, thank you, Bakari. I always tell them the clock starts when you call after working hour. So it has been an interesting topic because indeed we all need to set our boundaries in personal life, professional life especially, but also in your relationships that you're having, because especially now, like you just said as well, you can keep on going and going and going. At one point you're falling, and then who is there to help you up? Of course, your direct
Exactly.
family and everything, of course. But when we're talking about boundaries, because you didn't keep your boundaries or you didn't set your boundaries, you give it to everybody except to yourself. You're so right. You are important. You have to take care of yourself first, so you can take care of others. That is so true. So, well, thank you, everybody. It has been an interesting topic, and thank you all for tuning in this time with us, for all your remarks, for all your questions. We really appreciate that a lot. And I also would like to thank Amy for this interesting topic and her knowledge about this topic that she wanted to share it with us. Is there anything you would want to say as a closing?
Yes, I would like to thank everyone who took their time out of their Saturday to be here. My lovely auntie, the dean, my friends, everyone who's listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And know that, I love each one of you. And, I'm taking care of my mental health. So if I don't answer back my WhatsApp, my Facebook Messenger, or any other item you have thrown at me, I have you in my thoughts, and I appreciate everyone who has always supported me. And just going forward, please be mindful of your boundaries. Continue to enforce them. If it's something that you have not yet done, start doing it, and take it step by step. I don't expect you to have all your boundaries set in all areas of your life, but at least start with one. Enforce it, maintain it. Then you do a next one. Enforce it, maintain it, and you go ahead, and you're going to be better at enforcing and maintaining your boundaries going forward. And always remember, take care of you first. If you don't take care of you, there's no one else who's going to take care of you. You
That,
matter.
thank you. Well said. And thank you again very much. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a great afternoon and evening wherever you are, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And let me work on our boundaries and keeping them. So thank you very much, and bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Thank you.